The countdown continues. RTD says their train to Longmont might be here sooner than expected, and it will only take $1 billion more.
It all depends on money, and what we're saying is we don't have money.
With evictions reaching an all-time high, Denver is pausing millions of dollars meant to help families stay off the streets. Colorado Republicans say they're canceling next year's primaries. The chair of the party, though, disagrees. And students in Denver got out of the classroom and into the treetops.
Anybody want to climb a tree today?
Yeah! All that and more tonight on Next.
RTD's train to and from Boulder County could really come in handy on a night like tonight when the Denver Broncos play. Actually, hang on a second. I want to show you something. Recognize this? RTD's train to Boulder and Longmont could now be just 3,000 or so days away. This is Kyle's prop, not mine. I'm going to do my very best here. 3,000. That's not a bad number, right? New report from RTD claims the unfinished portions of Fast Tracks could be now complete by 2034. 2034, including the train to Boulder that was promised more than 20 years ago. What's the catch here, though? Only $1.5 billion more. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
Okay, class, if a train is approved to leave Denver in 2004 but still isn't built to Boulder in 2025, how much will it cost to still complete a promise made to voters?
In order for us to prioritize it and get it done in the next 10 years like the legislature would like us to, we need help from others to do it.
RTD's Bill Saroy is explaining a new report on Fast Tracks, the 2004 voter-approved passenger rail program funded by a metro area sales tax, one that Boulder County residents pay, but without a promised passenger train.
That is a commitment that we made, so we are honoring that commitment. It's just a matter of when we can afford to do it.
The report was required by state lawmakers, who were pushing RTD to finish the promises of Fast Tracks. Fast Tracks was supposed to cost $4.7 billion. RTD has spent $5.5 billion and still does not have a train going through Louisville and on to Boulder and Longmont, as well as 3 other rail extensions that are unfinished. To complete those 4 projects promised in Fast Tracks, RTD needs another $1.6 billion.
It all depends on money. And what we're saying is we don't have money.
Well, if the topic sounds ominous, it's plagued each Boulder mayor for years.
Zeus has an opinion on this matter.
Aaron Brockett is the current Boulder mayor who sees the lights at the front of the train.
I do think that our best promise and hope for rail to Boulder lies in the joint rail service plan with Front Range Passenger Rail.
The Front Range Passenger Rail is another yet-to-be-built project that would presumably get a passenger train from Pueblo to Fort Collins. Brockett brought it up when I pointed out RTD's new estimate for the train to Longmont has dropped from 10,000 daily riders to 1,100.
When you combine the two with the train going all the way up to Fort Collins, past Boulder and Longmont and Loveland, I think then you get the additional ridership and the additional transportation benefit that makes it all worthwhile.
So now what? Saroy with RTD told me these are now facts on paper, so RTD, state lawmakers, local elected leaders can all be on the same page. Well, since voters just approved a Tabor override for RTD, meaning they allowed RTD to keep above and beyond the mathematical equation of what they're allowed to keep each year, I asked RTD, would they ask voters for more money on top of the money voters in the metro area are already giving RTD for something that's unfinished? I got a to be continued answer, although Boulder's mayor was like, no more RTD additional tax.
Asking money from us here in Colorado. 2034, what do you think that likelihood actually is? Because we've waffled on this a lot here, so.
I asked of these 4 projects that are unfinished, what's your deadline to get them done by 2034? They would need to be approved essentially tomorrow, or at least in the next few months.
Okay.
So unlikely.
Okay.
But if you start, it's the most expensive one. The train to Longmont's the most expensive, so if that gets approved, maybe 2034. If they wait, it's just going to get more expensive, and that time is going to get higher.
And I'm looking at this thing one more time. I thought this was funny. So if we're at 3,000 now, you know what we were last time we did this? 6,300. So we're moving in the right direction.
Maybe that makes it unbelievable then.
That's an awful, and that was like a year ago. So, all right, we'll see. We're going to hold on to this. This feels like our receipts. Okay, Marshall, thank you. Just this week, RTD's board of directors is also voting on whether to scale back a service for people with disabilities. RTD leaders say the Access on Demand program became just too popular and too expensive to continue as it is. RTD's 24/7 Access on Demand program allows riders with disabilities to take up to 60 Ubers, Lyfts, or taxis a month. And RTD will cover up to $25 a ride. Last year, RTD execs said that the cost of that program became unsustainable, going from $85,000 a month to $1.2 million per month over the past few years. Tomorrow, RTD's directors will vote on several proposed changes, including adding base fares, lowering the subsidy for each trip, and ending the 24/7 service. Disability advocates and the riders who depend on Access on Demand have asked for that program to be kept as is. They say it's much more extensive and reliable than RTD's accessible shuttle program. RTD estimates that scaling back that program could save them about $30 million a year. Well, the clock is ticking now for thousands of federal employees here in Colorado. The Senate still has not come to a deal to avert a partial government shutdown and mass government layoffs at the very end of this month. We are a day and a half away. The federal government runs out of money at the end of the day tomorrow. Republicans say they are ready to pass a bill keeping agencies funded for at least a few weeks past the deadline. But Senate Democrats say they will not vote for it unless Republicans extend health insurance subsidies and reverse Medicaid cuts. Senate leaders met at the White House today. They did not reach a deal. Some of Colorado's 30,000 government employees could be laid off during a shutdown. The White House Budget Office told agencies to slash the jobs once the funding runs out. Typically during a shutdown, what we see instead is that employees are furloughed or they're asked to work without pay, not laid off. All right, let's turn our attention now to the forecast. Kathy, there's a Broncos game tonight. We've been talking about a possibility of delays. Is that looking likely or not?
Well, I think the showers move through on schedule as expected and should stay to the east of us, so we may be in the clear. But I thought maybe if we just had a sign, an omen from Mother Nature, and I've been asking for the last hour or two, and in comes the omens, Chris Garza and Parker. Yep, there's a rainbow. And how about Jeremy Gilbert? Not one, but two rainbows. Up in Steamboat, a double rainbow. This has to be great news for our Broncos. They're taking the field in less than 10 minutes. With kickoff temperatures, our current readings in the mid-60s. Our high today at 75. Everybody's excited about the game. We do think it will stay dry for the game. Still watching those foothills pretty closely. 65 degrees at kickoff, 61 degrees with clearing skies fourth quarter. Where's all this moisture coming from in September? It's like a spring day. It's coming from an upper level low to the south of us. Showers and storms are tracking east out onto the plains where a brief heavy downpour, some thunder, lightning, a possibility. Check ahead with travel in and out of DIA because the wind and lightning has been a thing for the last hour or so. But I would say this radar view is looking pretty good here around the city. So we'll track these showers. They're going to move out. Skies will clear tonight, and we have a nice evening coming up. Hopefully a wonderful evening for Broncos fans. Upper 70s tomorrow, and then we say hello to October with 80s. That's right, 80s for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Our next weather change comes in next weekend. Highs in the 60s with a chance for showers on Saturday.
Colorado's entire congressional delegation is now backing the state's request for federal disaster aid for Rio Blanco County. This after the devastating fires there this summer. These kind of requests are usually not a big deal, slam dunk if you will, but President Trump has denied similar requests from other states in recent months. The Lee and the Elk fires, they were started by lightning back in early August. The Lee fire grew into the 5th largest in Colorado history. It burned more than 137,000 acres. The governor's office says the state and FEMA have already tallied up $27 million in damage, a number they only expect to grow. If President Trump approved a federal disaster declaration, that would allow Colorado to recover a majority of the costs from the feds. Colorado's congressional delegation wrote to the president today saying federal funding is needed to help Rio Blanco County residents recover from these fires and the resulting mudslides, flooding, and water quality issues. The state hasn't been denied federal disaster aid since Trump's first term back in 2018, but the president has been pushing to reform FEMA and has already denied several requests from other states this year. A Denver program that helps people avoid eviction is currently on pause. Advocates say hundreds of families who applied or have plans to may now not get the relief, at least not until December. The change comes now as eviction filings this year are on pace to be at an all-time high. Here's our Angeline McCall.
For tenants at risk of eviction in Denver, right now, there are fewer resources to immediately turn to.
And I think people are feeling stress. People are figuring out, like, what do I do?
Marissa Molina with the Community Economic Defense Project says they received a stop work order from the city of Denver to distribute TRUA, or temporary rental and utility assistance.
To receive this immediate stop work order on Thursday caused a lot of confusion and frankly, a lot of hardship for the people who were already in the pipeline to receive support.
Molina says they had to contact 67 people already notified they would receive TRUA funding this month, only to share the program is currently paused.
It's tough, right, to be able to look at people who we deeply care about in our communities and say our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do at this moment in time unless there's a change in action here.
The Department of Housing Stability, or HOST, oversees TRUA and plans to cut $9 million out of the Denver budget to push into the 2026 TRUA budget.
We learned more at the end of last week about some of the challenges on the horizon for the TRUA funding.
Pat Noonan with Colorado Housing Connect says the city is making hard decisions.
And really what we're doing is focusing on how we can still provide them with the help and support that they need. Maybe it's through the state program, maybe it's through resources like tenant-landlord mediation.
In the meantime, HOST shared they're assessing which TRUA applicants to be considered high priority and trying to determine what kind of funding will be available through December. Molina says until then, the program is paused and also leaving families scrambling for rent due in just a couple of days.
We also just know that there's so many people in our community that are one emergency and one crisis away from being put in a position where they can no longer, pay rent. And we see that since the Thursday stop work order.
The city says if they didn't make this change in the last couple of months of the year, TRUA would only have been allocated $3 million in the budget for 2026.
But a budget question here. Budget was previously approved by City Council. Now it's getting changed. It's like they're borrowing from kind of next year to try to help this year. How is that landing with folks on council?
Yeah, I spoke with one council member, Gonzalez Gutierrez, over the phone today. She said her concern is really like that these dollars were allocated. Now they're getting changed. And you also have to remember this happened in a split moment on a Thursday, right? Organizations received the call to stop the work in distributing TRUA. And so there is a little bit of frustration there as well, right? Just the immediacy of this, as well as, what does this mean for families and the impact for those who are really reliant when we talk about other programs too. Jenny, SNAP, Medicaid, federal funding, all of those things. I mean, it's all coming really into the fold for so many people.
Okay. Angeline McCall, thank you. We do want to say a quick thanks to all of you for everything you've done this week to support teens with autism, building skills they need to reach their goals. Here's Kyle with an update on this week's Word of Thanks.
Thanks for being with Next while I'm away, and thank you for your generous support of Revel. Through your latest Word of Thanks microgiving campaign, you raised nearly $50,000 to support that nonprofit that works with teenagers and young adults with autism to help them reach their goals in life. You've raised $16 million for nonprofits across Colorado just like that, week after week, $5 donation after $5 donation. So tell us about nonprofits in your corner of Colorado that are making a difference so that we can help them help the community. Email ideas to next@9news.com.
Some Colorado Republicans say they are canceling the primaries, but you know who's not on board with that? Other Colorado Republicans. And an innovative school in Denver is teaching their kids to reach new heights, starting by climbing trees. That's next. He was the last of 4 suspects to be charged in the killing of a woman who was a pillar in the Denver refugee community. And this morning, he was sentenced to nearly 2 decades in prison. Swa Bay pleaded guilty in July to second-degree murder for the death of Ma Kang back in 2022. He was sentenced today to 18 years in prison. As part of his plea deal, 31 other counts were dismissed. Kang was killed by a stray bullet while putting groceries away. She was a refugee from Myanmar, fled war, came to Denver back in 2007, eventually became a board member of the East Colfax Neighborhood Association. She owned a Burmese and Thai restaurant called Ta Win. 2 of the other men charged in her death were sentenced to life in prison, and a third man got an 18-year sentence. This weekend, about 200 members of the Colorado Republican Party voted to cancel next year's primaries. At least they think they did. The party's officers say that vote did not count. Colorado Republicans have been trying to exclude unaffiliated voters from the primaries for years now, but it's not that easy to do. State law requires at least 75% of the party's central committee to approve opting out of the primaries. At this weekend's meeting, about 45% of the committee voted to try and repass an old resolution in favor of opting out of the primaries, and instead using an assembly process to nominate candidates. That's according to our partners at the Colorado Politics. Well, party chair Britta Horn says it doesn't work like that. That does not meet the legal requirements, and that next year's Republican primaries will continue as scheduled. We should note earlier this year, Horn told us she does not support using the assembly process.
I call it no ballot primary, because there won't be any ballots going out for the Republican Party. It would all be done, like you said, in caucus, assembly, or conference. That is only going to be a very, very small percent, 1% or less of people being a part of that, because who's going to do that and going to all these meetings? And we disenfranchise our military that are overseas, men and women that can't turn in their vote and can't turn in a ballot because they're overseas protecting the country.
So you don't support that idea?
I don't support it at all.
The Republicans who want to cancel the primaries are not giving up. They told Colorado Politics, quote, "The body of the people want it done," and they're taking their case to court. A micro school in Denver is fighting the Monday blues by getting their students outdoors.
Every Monday, there's some cool outdoor experience for our students to be adventurous.
And today's assignment? Climbing trees. That's next. If you were in City Park around noon today, you probably thought there was a whole bunch of kids cutting school to climb trees. They were not cutting school. That was school. La Luz is an independent lab school in Denver and says their learning is not confined to the classroom.
All right, anybody want to climb a tree today?
Every Monday, we're out on adventures of some kind. We call it learning through adventure or being adventurous, and we think that's a really important part of what we do.
You got to pay attention so you are keeping yourself safe and you're keeping the people around you safe.
But every Monday, there's some cool outdoor experience for our students to be adventurous.
But we'll get you all geared up here.
I found mine.
We're a small lab school based in West Denver, but we get out into the community almost every day. We think that kids sitting at desks and chairs for the entire day, every day, is actually not the best way to learn. And so we're trying to prove that something different is possible.
Super pretty.
And today we're out here with Tree Climbing Colorado.
Push up, see how you're getting off the ground.
Kids are getting up in these massive oak trees in City Park. They're having a chance to learn about the trees and the ecology of this area, while also just having this really cool experience.
It's better than just sitting in a classroom at a desk for like 8 hours.
They get to step outside of their comfort zone, try something new. Being outside, seeing the kids up in the trees, on a Monday morning, it is honestly a really special experience, and I still have to kind of take a moment once in a while to remember, like, we're really grateful to be able to do this, and I do think it's just a really special experience for the students that we have at La Luz, and I hope that we can make this possible for some other students in the Denver area as well.
How do you feel?
Good.
We're back with your feedback next. In your feedback tonight, one viewer points out that the impact of a federal shutdown, if that should happen, goes far beyond just the federal workers. By text tonight, we heard from someone who says many of us who own small businesses are also impacted by these decisions and the possibility of losing our business. We work with federal entities. We've been impacted by the previous shutdowns and have no recourse of action to get back any lost income. Stories that we have told many times before when facing a shutdown. I suppose we'll see what happens the next couple days. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for having me on Next tonight. It's always nice to see you all here.